Today we are going to help you conquer flying. If you are scared to fly, we are going to give you the best tips ever to help you not be as anxious the next time you fly. What happened the first time you flew in an airplane? Were you scared about crashing? Was it the turbulence that you didn't know about that scared you to death? What is it that frightens you when you think about going in an airplane? Many people have a real fear of flying, and according to Wikipedia, it's called aviohobia, the fear of flying in airplanes. So you might have a fear of heights, which really comes into play when you are in an airplane in the sky. Some people have a fear of the unknown. Some people have a fear of not being in control. I have one friend who will not fly ever since she's become a mother because she doesn't want her children to be motherless if their plane crashed. A lot of my friends and subscribers have the same fear as me, and it's being out of control, like not being in control, being able to pull over the car and park while the turbulence passes by. It's not something I know about either in my mind. My friend Shannon has the fear of not being able to escape. Like there's no way to get out of this situation if it turns deadly, which is not quite the same as claustrophobic. That's a different fear that comes into play when you're in an enclosed metal capsule. For me, I don't know about turbulence. I don't know what it means when there are bumps. I think bumps cause brakes, much like the harder rain that comes down when I'm driving. I need to slow down in order to be more careful or to be safer. But when you're flying in an airplane, those fears come up and you have no control over them. And part of it is not knowing all the techniques or not knowing all the safety parameters around an airplane and the people who are in charge of the airplane. So today I have asked my friend Chris to talk about what can help us and give us the best tips of how we can not be as scared the next time we fly. Now, he can't take away the fears from us, but they are tips that will help us overcome flying or get through the nosedive that some of us go on in our thoughts when we're being scared in an airplane or even thinking about flying an airplane. When we're flying in an airplane, we may be going to work or we may be going on vacation. We don't need to be caught up in a spiral of irrational thoughts that are not letting us relax and keeping us awake at night before we even start our vacation. But there's that saying that knowledge is power. So I hope these tips from someone who does know about safety and all the people who are helping you in your flight and getting your flight ready will help you overcome your fear and get through that for those 5 hours or 2 hours or maybe even 40 minutes of pure terror in an airplane. If you haven't subscribed yet, please hit the subscribe button and you'll be notified just by email once a week when I upload a video. Leave me a comment below and introduce yourself. One thing I want to mention is that Chris is not representing any certain airline. These are his personal feelings and his personal tips that he can offer you from his knowledge vantage point. Now let's pop into question number one.
I'm not afraid because all pilots in any airline are very well trained before they ever step foot into an actual airplane. And we also know that the airplanes are designed to withstand all types of environmental things like as weather, rain, snow, turbulence, and wind. Most airline pilots have to go through over, I would say, 85 to 100 hours of actual simulator training, which simulates all types of issues that could happen on an airplane, weather related, mechanical related, even passenger and security related. So by the time a pilot actually sets foot on an airplane, he has already seen a whole multitude of malfunctions and weather issues before he ever flies the actual airplane. And most airlines also have a very specific checklist procedure for every one of those items. On a daily basis for every leg, most airlines have anywhere from the different phases of flight, from pushing back an airplane to getting to the runway to taking off to at cruise to the descent to the landing back to the gate. So I would say 7 to 10 checklists they do on every leg every time they fly.
When pilots walk around the airplane, what are they looking for?
A walk around is basically just looking for anything that's abnormal with the airplane. You're looking at the status of the tires. You're looking at any kind of leaks, like from a broken hydraulic line or fuel line that we would like to find out prior to taking the airplane in the air. We're looking for anything that may have been damaged by, let's say, a ground vehicle, may have hit the airplane on accident. So you're just looking for the general condition of the outside of the airplane.
What are some of the tips that you can give people who are totally afraid of flying?
So first of all, it's not abnormal to be scared of flying. We see that all the time. So the best things I could tell people who are afraid to fly is, number one, book yourself a seat that is as close to the wing or front of the airplane as possible.
Why?
Because the airplane, the longer the airplane is, it's just like a boat. Most of the side sway of an airplane is always in the back near the rudder. So the closer you sit to the front, you won't feel that as much if you're prone to get motion sickness. The second thing I would say to do is, right when you board the airplane, simply ask the flight attendant if you can speak with the pilots, because you're a nervous flyer. Pilots will gladly tell you about the flight, any known weather we know about already, and answer any questions you may have to put yourself at ease regarding the upcoming flight you're about to take. We're very used to that, and we encourage that. Pilots don't like turbulence either, so we will do whatever we can to avoid it. So we listen to other aircraft that are checking in with air traffic control. If they are reporting a rough ride that's at the same altitude we are, we will look at our airplane and say, can we climb higher, can we go down? We will ask for an altitude that we know is better than the one that we're at, especially if we're coming up to what previous airplanes have reported as a rough ride. However, there are some times where, just due to the weather in the area or just that day, that all the altitudes that we can safely fly are not available, or they're all poor rides. But pilots will always try to avoid a bad ride. Mm-hmm. There's just some times where we just can't. And so when that's the case, we will make sure everybody's down in the back, and we will do our best to get through it. We have some steps we take, like slowing down so it doesn't feel as rough.
But that doesn't mean it's safer.
No.
Just slowing down
it's
means
just more
safer.
comfortable for the people in the back.
Because it seems like
Right.
sometimes pilots go faster
Right.
through turbulence.
Everything we try to do is to minimize the discomfort for the passengers in the back. Turbulence is caused by uneven heating of the Earth's surface. And so you get pockets of warm and cold air that come together. And when an airplane comes at those, you're going to have a difference in temperature, air density. And so it's the same thing as a boat with the propeller that puts out turbulence behind a wake in a motorboat. The airplane is designed to take all kinds of turbulence. Doesn't mean we like turbulence and we will not knowingly go through it. But there are other issues with the weather in the area. We see a lot over the Rocky Mountains with air coming over the top of the Rockies, creates what they call mountain wave, which is a form of turbulence. The difference is nowadays versus days of yore is we have all kinds of reporting capabilities to get the information to the pilots, so we can do our best to predict upcoming weather and make sure everybody's seated and safe, or figure out a way to go around it, above it, or below it.
I also recommend reading a real book or a real magazine, something that you have to hold with both hands. I like having to turn the page. I think that helps me, give me something to grip onto instead of the armrest, and also eating the whole time or chewing gum a lot. I also recommend going to the restroom 1 hour before you're supposed to land. And at the beginning of the flight, they tell you how long the flight is going to be. And that way you're not stuck in the aisle when you hear the pilot or the flight attendant say, it's time to sit down, buckle your seatbelt. These are just other tips that have helped me when I have gotten scared while flying.
The best tip is to always have your seatbelt fastened while you're seated. We will do our best to always avoid turbulence, but there is a type of turbulence that's called clear air turbulence, where it comes sometimes without warning. And so that is why we ask people, when you're at your seats, to always keep that seatbelt fastened, because sometimes we just cannot predict bumpy air.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And can you talk about the airplane withstanding different kinds of weather?
Yeah, so airplanes are essentially what I say over-engineered, or they are designed to meet all kinds of stringent weather issues, turbulence, wind, snow, rain. Airplanes are very, very thoroughly tested before they're ever released by the FAA to be allowed to fly for passenger service. So they put airplanes through all kinds of abuses to see what the reaction will be. And oftentimes the abuse they get during testing is 3 or 4, maybe even 5 times worse than you would ever experience in the air. So an aircraft training program at most airlines in the US, it involves around 80 hours of simulator time in a full motion simulator. And a full motion simulator is designed to mimic the airplane exactly as it is in the real world. And so we do all types of weather avoidance procedure. We do turbulence. We do landing in high winds. Water landings, we do, you name it, we've done it all inside this box on hydraulics before we ever set foot in the actual airplane. And no airline will ever permit a pilot to set foot on an actual airplane unless he has passed an FAA approved training program.
Thanks so much. I hope these are the best tips that will help you be a stronger person as you walk through security and get on that airplane and sit beside a complete stranger. I hope these just help you feel awashed with security and knowing that you are safe, and that those pilots and flight attendants and all the mechanics and the team members that have gone into preparing that airplane just for you, I hope these best tips will help you feel peaceful. Thanks for popping over.